Hey, everybody. This is Off the Cuff, and I'm your host, Dr. Michael Lynch, and we've got a new topic today, which has irked me like the last topic, and I'm not kidding. I tell you, there's some things out there that I cannot believe. I don't understand. I hope that you can probably inform me later on when I get older and more senile, so I'll understand some of this stuff. So the difference tonight that we're going to talk about is a hack versus a genius, okay? And a genius is different than a hack. All right. Now let me just lay out the situation here. Okay. When I was growing up, and I took a test, whether it be multiple choice or fill in the blank or essay or whatever, and I looked over to my friend's desk and would copy their answers, I'd get caught for cheating and I'd be dragged to the principal's office, and then I'd have to retake the entire test all over again, which would be a different test, not the same test. So I would have to study. I had to go home and study. That's the fact. That's just the way high school was. Even in college, if they caught you with plagiarism, they'd like throw the book at you and said, "Oh, how are you gonna, you'll never amount to anything because you're cheating all the time. You're taking someone else's hard-earned work and knowledge, and then you're taking it for yourself, slapping your name on it, which is totally, totally crazy, because under copyright law and plagiarism laws, you can get a severe fine for this. If not, just lose everything: credentials, reputation, funding. And that's why universities don't like people who are hacks. Because a hack is a cheater. They take everyone else's info and then they bring it over and they go, "Oh, look what I just discovered. And I'm going to assimilate. I'm going to morph all this information dating back to the dawning of time. And I'm going to put it together in one big book, and I'm going to say it's mine. I'm going to stamp my name on it. And I'm going to get $500,000 because I'm going to write an essay, what I did last summer." And it was, I went and talked to 100 people, and they all give me their information. So I'm just going to assimilate that into my essay of what I did last summer. And then I'm just going to say, there it is. Pay me. Give me things. Give me things. Give me a grant. Give me some money so I can steal more stuff and assimilate that. I mean, we're not talking about the Borg. We're talking about real people who have spent their whole lives working on books and evidence and facts and materials to present because they need the income. Okay? They need the research funding to go out and do it again. Whether we're talking about cryptozoology, whether we're talking about ghost hunting, near-death experiences, the afterlife, I don't care what you're talking about. The average junior psychologist working at a university needs millions of dollars of funding because you don't know how much of that equipment costs. That EEG machine is not cheap, and they can't go and sell their bodies to buy another one. So they're slaving away at night. They barely eat. They're just like, out there like artists, like starving artists. "Oh, man, we need the government funding. We need some government funding." Whoa, because the government has lots of money they're going to throw around. And they go to universities. The military goes to universities and says, "Okay, we've got this little thing, widget, and of course it probably fell off a UFO, but we're going to give it to some novice, young, talented person and say, okay, refine this, make this better. What is it? And give us a report." Now, we've done this 4 times over the last 40 years. So this young cat with some genius will take that, reverse engineer it, and then they got it for the next F-15 fighter or stealth bomber, which has been highly improved, or, drones that will face recognize you and kill you right in the middle of the forehead while you're walking down the street. Okay? So the hack collects everybody else's evidence, presents it as their own, which is cheating. Cheating. The genius takes everything that they find, develops new equipment, goes in different directions. They zig when everyone else zags. All right? And they come up with an ingenious thing. Okay? Like Stephen Hawking, Albert Einstein, Galileo, Copernicus. You know, the telescope was genius. And the Pope said, if you look through that, you know, you'll go to hell immediately. Man wasn't meant to look through telescopes. Man wasn't meant to fly. Man wasn't meant to go to the moon. But geniuses sit down with stone knives and bearskins and build the Apollo rocket. Wernher von Braun was a genius. He dreamt about going to Mars, and in high school and grade school, he would draw pictures of this rocket going to Mars. Jules Verne wrote books because he was a genius. A genius. In the book Going to the Moon, he writes that where the rocket lands in the ocean and everything gives you, you know, as if he's seeing the future of the 1960s landing and the Gemini landings of the space rockets landing in the ocean. In his book, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, the ship, the Nautilus, was running on nuclear power. You know? And then guess what we got now? Aircraft carriers, submarines, battleships, nuclear power. Everything's nuclear power. You can't throw a stick without hitting a military vessel with nuclear engine capability. So what has irked me the most is that Bob Bigelow put out a contest. It's a contest. And there were going to be 3 winners. The first one was going to get $500,000, $500,000. The next one was going to get $250,000, right, dollars, and the other one was going to get something a little bit less, okay, 50,000 or something like that. And these guys, okay, the first one who got the largest amount, Mishlove, is a hack. In his proposal, in his essay, was everybody else's work, everybody else's books, and they even took videos and he had them on his talk show, and he just took all their stuff and put it all together, slapped it all together like a 5-year-old with some glue and some construction paper and paint, and he shipped it off to Bigelow Enterprises, and he got the big money. I'm not jealous. I'm not jealous. You know, $500,000 is, you know, that's a pretty good chunk of change. He got last year's as well. He's got it 2 years in a row. Because why? He has a radio talk show, and he just drains everybody of information. We call that an energy vampire in my book, because he's also cheating, beginning all of their stuff and combining it, morphing it together into one big Frankenstein's monster, and then saying, hey, show me the money. Give me the money. Big dollar signs. That's not genius. That's a hack. That is a hack. Okay? I can't say it any other way. That irks me, man. That really rips. When I've got people who have more evidence, who have been in the field a lot longer and got more evidence than you can ever possibly imagine, and they haven't got a dime. They're spending their retirement checks not on medicines or food, but on research in the field. There's a gentleman you might know, Tom Slick, that's his real name. And he went and he looked for Bigfoot. Exhausted his fortune looking for Bigfoot. Was he a fool? He may have been. But was he obsessed? Absolutely. But what he was doing was original work. Original work. And when he was presenting it, everyone in the anthropology, anthropomorphic fields, yeah, that's no good, that's no good, that's no good. They didn't even leave their ivory tower, their crystal palaces, to even know what he was talking about, where he was going. Sheffield was climbing in the Himalayas. It took him weeks to acclimate to that height. And he found footprints in the snow. And I have people today publishing that in Skeptic magazine saying that it was a leopard. It was a leopard, not a bipedal Bigfoot Yeti. It was a leopard making those tracks. Okay, if you don't go and check it out in person, what in the hell are you talking about? Okay? So, you can be a genius. You can be the genius of geniuses, the Rick of Ricks, the Mortys of Mortys, and you can come in and lay your stuff on the table and just wait for the hacks to grab it, tear it apart, and run off with it and claim it as theirs in 6 months. Why is it that every paranormal conference that I have ever been to, I see people up there who have spent 5 years on one project deliver their evidence, and some guy in the back from quote-unquote NASA or another alphabet agency is sitting there going, oh, they're getting close, man. They're getting really close. We got to cut them out. We have to shut them down. Close to what? Changing somebody's opinion, someone's mind, someone's direction, new way of thinking. So if the government can't control it, they have to shut it down. But the government can go to a university and find a nice little genius and pay them $10 million and up, and then get whatever they want. Because why? Well, they're working for the government, and, you know, our checks don't bounce. But real genius is investment. It's an investment. So David Adair, look him up on YouTube, had a conference in England. Nice British people, and he had nothing really to hide. He was just being himself. And he says he got $3 trillion, $3 trillion to build Elysium, the next wheel in space with gardens and houses and healthcare. And he put in an order for 6 space shuttles to take that stuff up. He got his own private island in the South Pacific. Now you can say, you only live twice, or Dr. No, one or the other. But he got $3 trillion for his genius. So if you're out there struggling, and brothers and sisters, I have been there before. I have been there. And you're not fighting, if you're a genius, you're not fighting money or equipment. What you're fighting is ideology. And the people who are in the field, especially in my field with religion or biochemistry or neurochemistry, more or less, will sit there and poo-hoo it. Because, why? They have not even thought of that yet. True genius thinks differently. It works differently. It's totally different. Genius is genius. It's just its own brand of crazy. So is being normal, whatever that is. We don't even know what normal is. Normal is on some type of spectrum, some type of bell curve. And if you take enough pharmaceuticals, it will push you back to the big part of the bell. So Mr. Mishlove can take Robert Bigelow's money of $500,000. But let me tell you this, David Adair got $3 trillion. And he didn't steal anybody's work. He didn't steal anybody's work. He was sitting down with a piece of paper and just figured it out on his own. Read the books, did the math, pounded it out. When he was a kid, he worked in a cornfield, shooting rockets up, like, the Chinese used to do. Just building rockets, shooting them up. He got so much attention that the military said, this guy is not only a national threat, he's a national treasure. We've got to get him to work for us. And he did. He worked in NASA. He worked until they just said, well, we just can't do this. NASA just said, we just don't have that, whatever he's got. Not the genius. We don't have the genius. We can't go back to the moon because the Pleiadians or somebody won't allow us. So we're going to sit here and vegetate until we're all digital, until Elon Musk comes up and in 5 years and beats their asses. True genius is its own reward, and success is phenomenal. To get that thing to work, you put the pieces together. It's like putting together Legos. And you got this cool thing sitting right in front of you. And it's like, wow, I figured it out. I put it together. And that's the achievement. Man's self-worth comes from a lot of his own achievement, not his confidence or pride or his arrogance. It's what has he achieved. And we're getting to the day where no one achieves jack. They consume entertainment 98% of the time. They don't achieve anything but a high score. And they feel great about that. Well, I guess that's just the way of life. There'll be hacks and there will be geniuses. The hacks get this. The geniuses get this. So all I'm telling you, this is my word of advice. Choose whatever you want. It's a free freaking country. Go out there and be a genius. Do something that no one's ever... Do you think Tony Hawk just sit around and watch other people do stuff? No. Tony Hawk got out there and skateboarded. How many people have sit around and watched other people do things, figure it out, how to do the gymnastics of whatever they do? That's genius. You figured it out on your own. And everyone should be treating that with respect and dignity. You yourself get your respect and dignity from that achievement, okay? But if you're just sitting back getting a high score, and then anyone can get a high score, anyone can achieve what you can achieve. You know, anyone can do what you can do. That's just normal. A hack steals everything you've done and makes a profit, like Bill Gates. Pure and simple. He's a hack. He's not a genius. He wrote 2 pages of code and sued everybody so that he'd get the funding to build Microsoft. Okay, that's a hack. Ross Perot ran around and bought into other companies' stock shares and then manipulated them until he got the most money out of them, and then he dumped them. That's not genius. That's a hack. Anyone who profits off the back of hard work is a hack. Anyone who builds a better mousetrap is a genius. And they're not all coming from Germany. Okay? Under Project Paperclip. They're already here. You just have to apply yourself, and then that will be that. But see, if we live in a world, where everyone's a hack and everyone steals from each other, finances, stock, money, women, if you just are constantly a thief stealing in order to survive, you have stole everything from everybody else and there is nothing left to steal. It's a finite situation. It's a finite endeavor. But if you're a genius, you don't have to do any of that. You just keep doing what you're doing, man. Picasso just kept painting. Stock car drivers just kept on driving. They went from White Lightning to the Indy 500. You know, genius is genius. The patent offices are filled with patents of genius. Many years ago, before you were all born, the Romans invaded Alexandria, and Alexander was in Egypt, named after Alexander the Great. Okay, because he conquered Egypt as a Greek. He conquered Egypt before he went on to the Middle East. About 100 years later or so, not even that far, 75 years later, the Romans invaded Alexandria because they wanted gold to finance their wars in England and in France and in Germany, which lasted about 15 years. They never conquered England, but they needed the gold to pay the people for their time while they were in battle. So they burnt Alexandria. And the library of Alexandria burnt with it. Thousands and thousands of books and scrolls of Pythagorean theorem, of Syracusan development, lasers, solar reflectors, great inventions by great geniuses and poets and writers, and they inspired people to build a better world, you see. And then Rome came in and destroyed it. And what was left over, they used in the furnaces below their hot water baths, and they burnt the rest of the library underneath their hot tubs for fuel to keep the fires going, to boil the water. We lost probably 5,000 years. 5,000 years of genius wiped out. Instead of Columbus going to America, we could have gone to the moon at the same time. But because of arrogance and stupidity and hackery that the Romans did, they absorbed everything, claimed it as their own, and went out and attacked you with it. So what I'm saying is, no matter what field you're in, do the best you can. Be the genius. Zig where everyone else zags. All right? Don't be the hack. And don't be whining about it when people come to you and don't give you any information because you've already stolen half of theirs. Don't go whining, well, I don't got anything, so I'm going to start a podcast and complain. I got 4-star colonels running around and some generals running around in the Air Force. If we don't have alien technology, we can't compete with the Russians. What? You're a hack? 4-star general and you're a moron hack? My God, get out of bed, brush your teeth, comb your hair, and go do something for yourself. The highest score isn't the end of the game. The highest score is just a high score. The game continues. Information still flows. And you can have that genius, be that genius, or be nothing at all. This has been Off the Cuff with Dr. Michael Lynch, and I'm so glad you tuned in to watch. And remember, next show we have Psychic Surfing Pig, procrastinator of the future. Scary stuff. He hears everything. Remember, this has been Off the Cuff with your host, Dr. Michael Lynch, and I'll see you next time.